Hello all. My name is Mrs.Manasi Hande, Assistant Professor in the Department of Information Technology from Changu Kana Thakur Arts, Commerce and Science College, New Panvel. Today we will be discussing Introduction to React. So what is React? React is a powerful JavaScript library specially designed for creating user interfaces. React.js is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces with reusable components mainly for single-page applications. It is primarily used to develop single-page applications that offers seamless user experiences. It was created in 2011 by Jordan Walkie, who was worked as a software engineer at Facebook, and since then it has become a cornerstone technology. Its architecture is component based, allowing developers to build reusable UI elements that simplify maintenance and scalability. Why should we use React? As I said, it is used to build a single page applications. So what is single page application? It is commonly known as a SPA, and it is a type of a web app or website designed to provide a seamless user experience by updating the current page dynamically. React is simple to understand as it follows component-based architecture. It also has a well-defined lifecycle and it uses a plain JavaScript. It supports a data binding, which is a one-way data binding. In React, the data binding is a process of synchronizing data between the component's logic and its user interface. Data is generally flows in one direction, typically from parent component to the child component via properties and within a component via its state. React is easy to learn. It's also support the development of Android and iOS mobile applications as well as web applications. It delivers high performance for dynamic user interfaces. Let us see the history and evolution of the React. In 2011, Jordan Walkie, a software engineer at Facebook, developed an initial prototype of a React. This initial prototype was called as a Fax.jx, and it was internally used at the Facebook to build parts of the news feeds. It supports the component-based architecture. Then in 2013, the first version of React released, which was focused on the building dynamic UI. In 2014, Virtual DOM was introduced, and since then it has become a core features of the React. In 2016, React version 15 was introduced, and it has a focus on a better performance and fixing issues. In 2017, React version 16, called as a fiber architecture, was introduced. And React fiber architecture or a fiber is an algorithm that helps React manage updates more efficiently by splitting rendering work into smaller chunks. In 2019, React version 16.8 was introduced, and in that, hooks were introduced, which was a way to manage a state and side effects in a functional components. The current stable version of React is 19.2.0, which was released in 2025. Let us see some features of React. React is a simple to code and understand and follows component-based approach, which makes the code reusable. JSX, or it stands for a JavaScript XML, and it is a JavaScript syntax extension. It is a combination of HTML and a JavaScript. Another feature is a components. React divides the web page into multiple components as it is a component based. Each component is a part of the UI design which has its own logic and a design. As we discussed, React also supports one-way data binding. React uses unidirectional data flow, that is the data is transferred from top to bottom, that is from parent component to the child component. Another very important feature is a virtual DOM. DOM stands for Document Object Model. It is a most important part of the web as it divides into modules and executes the code. Usually, JavaScript framework updates the whole DOM at once, which makes the web application slow. But React uses virtual DOM, which is an exact copy of a real DOM. Whenever there is a modification in the web application, the whole virtual DOM is updated first and finds the difference between the real DOM and virtual DOM. React has many extensions that we can use to create full-fledged UI applications. It supports the mobile app development and provides server-side rendering. Another very good feature is a React hook. These are the functions that allow developers to hook into React features like state and lifecycle from functional components, enhancing flexibility. Now let us see how does the React work. Now React operates by creating an in-memory virtual DOM rather than directly manipulating the browser's DOM. It performs necessary manipulations within its virtual representation before applying changes to the actual browser DOM. React maintains a previous virtual DOM to track the UI state before any update. It detects the changes. For example, in the pictorial format, you can see there is a web page which contains the components as page header, the content and the footer. Now when we change the content to hi to hello, React will create a new virtual DOM. It will check for the changes and it will update the changes. It will only update the changes. When change occurs, React generates a new virtual DOM. React compares the previous virtual DOM with the new virtual DOM using a process called reconciliation. Reconciliation is a key feature of React that efficiently updates the DOM by only making necessary changes. React identifies the differences and instead of updating the entire DOM, React updates only the change part in the new actual DOM, making the update process more efficient. This is just now we have discussed that React only changes what needs to be changed. These are some top companies which use the React for their development purposes. Now, whenever you want to set up a React environment on your systems, what requirements we need? So we need to download and install Visual Studio Code IDE. Then we also need to have a Node.js on your systems which is a JavaScript runtime. We will also check for NPM. NPM is nothing but a node package manager. Create React Pro. Once you have all the requirements set up on your system, you can create a project using the following commands. So what are the commands? Commands are npx create react app, my react app. The my react app will be the application name. Cd is a change directory, my react app, and then once the project is created, you can run this project using the npm start command. Once you created the project, what are the files that are created? Let us see some important or key folders and files. So node modules. This folder contains all the third-party libraries and dependencies installed for your project. The public folder contains the static assets that are not processed by the build tool. SRC is the important folder where your application's source code will be. App.js, the main component where the application structure is built by composing other components. You can create components in the folder SRC. Index.js, the main entry point that renders the root app component into the index.html's root element. Then there is app.css, is a common convention for a global style sheet associated with the main app component. Package.json, a file that stores project metadata including dependencies, scripts and configuration information. So you can see in a pictorial format the project structure or anatomy of your React application. So let us see the first very simple project or a program of the React. So as you can see on the right hand side, the very first line represents, it says import React from React. This line helps us to import the React library to use React features in the component. The function app defines a React functional component called as a app. The return statement renders HTML like code inside the component. So basically whatever you return inside the return statement will be rendered on the screen. So inside the return, in the division, we have written a hello world using the h1 tag. Export default app, the last line, means exports the app component so it can be used in another files or other files. So when you run this program using the npm start command, you should be able to see the output like hello world, as can be seen in the screen. This is it for now. Thank you.